Welcome back to Inside Sources. Today, we want to have a conversation on quite a few things that has to do with Nigeria's diplomatic representation abroad, especially as the president is on the trip to Japan and Brazil. To join me in that very important conversation today, I have a former Nigerian ambassador who was the former High Commissioner of the country to Australia, with concurrent accreditation to New Zealand, Fiji, Papua New Guinea, and Vanuatu. And who was also, after that, was the Director General of the NACIMA, that is National Association of Chambers of Commerce, Industries and Mines, and Agric. I'd like to welcome to Inside Sources for the first time, Ambassador Ayo Olukanni. Excellency, you are welcome to Inside Sources.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lalu Akonde. I feel highly honored with this invitation. I know our paths are, come a long way.
Yes.
When I was in the Commission, New York, as well as, of course, when you were in the office of the Vice President.
Very true.
In those days, our path crossed several times. So I feel highly honored. Thank you for the invitation today.
Thank you so much. And of course, you are also, you have shared the title of a spokesperson because you were the spokesperson of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs for a good number of time too. So we are both former spokespersons.
Yeah, that's true. You're right. I was Director of Public Communications and spokesperson of the Foreign Ministry between 2007 and early 2010.
Right. At a very exciting time in Nigeria's history. Okay, so let's just take it forward. The president is currently on a trip to Japan and Brazil. And I wanted us to just start from you telling us the problem that we seem to be grappling with since President Tinubu recalled all the ambassadors, less than about 2 years ago. Now, what is the implication of Nigeria not having an ambassador, especially when the president is visiting a particular country? Is going to be in Japan and Brazil, two important nations for that matter. But we don't have ambassadors anywhere in the world as we speak. What is the implication of that, Excellency?
Well, thank you very much, Lalu. I think the first thing is we should say is that I think it's commendable that Mr. President is backing on these streets, because at the end of the day, the president himself is the #1 ambassador of Nigeria. So it's a good thing in terms of having the energy, having the vision, also to go around in terms of marketing Nigeria. But at the end of the day, definitely, there's no way Mr. President would be in all these places 24 hours and the entire year. So when he goes to these places, it's ambassadors who will essentially pursue most of the things which, of course, have achieved. That's why you have representation, especially at the highest level. It is necessary to have your ambassadors in place on ground. It is important to have your ambassador in place on ground to be able to pursue your vision in terms of achievement of what you have done. Despite the technological revolution, the whole question of electronic diplomacy, you still need your ambassadors. And that's why I think it is necessary to address this issue. Now, Mr. President is going to these other places. He's going, of course, also to Dubai. From Dubai, he proceeds to Tokyo. Tokyo, he proceeds on a state visit to Brazil. When he goes on and achieves and signs this agreement, who pursues those things when he leaves? That's why I think it is necessary to have ambassadors.
Thank you for those opening comments. And I intend to dig a little bit deeper on that issue. I mean,
yes, it will be necessary because I'll give my own practical example.
Exactly.
When I was High Commissioner in Australia.
Exactly. So I wanted to, just for the benefit of our viewers and quite frankly, in the interest of our country, I wanted you to share a little bit more detail from your own experience what are the things that only an ambassador can get done? You know, now you've spoken generally about the fact that, look, when the president comes, he could sign a lot of deals because of his status, but then when he goes, you know, it takes away that status and there is nobody on ground to make it happen. But I want you to give us some more specific examples, possibly illustrations, so that our people can understand exactly what it is that we're talking about. You were ambassador, High Commissioner is the title, in about 4 countries, you know. So have you experienced this kind of stuff where you can tell us that, look, it is only an ambassador that can get this kind of stuff going?
I'll give practical examples because, like you say, it is always good to concretize the abstractions. Now, I was High Commissioner, like I said, between 2011, thereabout, to 2015. And in 2011, 2012, I think, we had the CHOGM, the Commonwealth Heads of Governments meeting in Perth, in Australia. President Jonathan was then the one who was in office. And he came for that particular meeting. But one of the things we did was that, look, listen, Australia was too far away for President Jonathan to just come from, because it was from 28th October to 30th for 2 days. And we said that, look, I discussed with the State House and we agreed to have an official visit. You know, diplomatic issue, official visits are different from state visit. State visit is the highest. But he was there for the official visit, and that was held in Perth. And then we held a lot of meetings. The first thing was that simply because I was Nigeria's ambassador and High Commissioner to Australia, with the plenipotentiary powers as plenipotentiary, ambassador extraordinary and plenipotentiary, I was able to discuss with the Australian counterpart, with the Australian DFA, Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade, that look, it is good for us to have something for President Jonathan before the Commonwealth Head of Government meeting starts. And they accepted, simply because of the ranking. It is important. An ordinary official, a councillor, or a first secretary would not be able to push that initiative. Well, what happened was we had the agreement, we had a visit, the official visit took place, during which President Jonathan was giving an official dinner. He also has discussion then with official discussion with Julian Gillard, who was the Prime Minister of Australia, the first female Prime Minister of Australia at that particular period, that time. Now, to cut a long story short, at that event, that period, separate from the CHOGM, we had an agreement between Nigeria and Australia in 4 areas: data, mining, agri, energy, and financial resources. We signed that agreement, and it was a very successful one. This was apart from the CHOGM. Of course, the CHOGM came, and the Commonwealth of Government meeting came, and then it was a very successful period to elect. Now, implementation of the agreement between Nigeria and Australia in 4 areas, agri, mining, energy, and financial resources, was now what I had to follow. I had to follow on. I had to work on. And because of the status of my status as the ambassador and representative, we were able to convince some Australian mining company, maybe at the risk of the question of, pushing them. I mean, how do I use the language now? I'll mention the names. Symbol Mining was able to be convinced because I held a meeting with them after. And then, of course, Andalusian Mining, they were also ready to work and discuss of the status of the ambassador. Symbol Mining came to Nigeria. They were involved in mining in the Benue Trough. Andalusian also came, and they all went to, Andalusian went to Oyo State, went to a state, irrespective of mining. So this is what are some of the functions which ambassadors will play because of the status at the end of the day. Long story short, my present involvement as the High Commissioner of Nigeria to Australia was one of the things that helped to convince those people that, yes, really, the agreement we signed with Nigeria is credible, it's important, let us start implementing. So these are some of the roles ambassadors in their capacity play.
Excellent. I mean, the points very well made, and that is why I want to follow up that. So if you look at the number of foreign trips that the president has made, and quite a few of us think that those presidential level trips can make a lot of things happen. Now, there is also the view of those who say, oh, maybe the president should be going back and forth. But I think that presidents going on foreign trips can actually make big things happen. But the question I wanted to ask is that, so since President Tinubu took office, he's conducted quite a number of foreign trips. So it would then seem that based on this explanation that you put on the table, that it's going to be very difficult for him and for Nigeria to draw optimal, maximum benefits from all his engagements if we don't have an ambassador on the ground. Now, if I were to say that, Excellency, will I be accurate?
For optimal benefit of the various trips of Mr. President since he took office, it is necessary, it will be helpful, it is necessary, and I think it is imperative to have Nigerian ambassadors with full accreditation, with full powers in office.
All right, so some of the buzzes that we have received, from official sources, though not formally, is that, there are financial implications, it's going to cost a lot of money, and all of that. So in your own view, should financial constraints, is that a legitimate reason why?
I don't want to cut you short. It's not enough. It is not enough. I was High Commissioner at Nigeria for Australia, concurrent activities in meeting that Japan, and I was appointed as ambassador when I was in Vienna. It was in period of Vienna that I came home for training, for all the things that goes with it, and then went on to post. Sometimes, even when you are at post and funds do not come, it does not still stop you from functioning. Carry the title of the ambassador, and that helps in terms of your access to high peace at the end of it. I don't think it's enough reason. I don't think, but 2 years. 2 years. I think steps should have been taken one way or the other. Ambassador, please proceed to the mission. We will arrange in terms of sending funds in terms of running the mission. What does it take? You print the papers. Once you print the papers, you do a training. The training is going to be here in Nigeria. If you can get tickets, I'm sure some of these ambassadors have the money to buy their tickets to their respective posts. And when they get to their respective posts, it's not at that time, it's not, they can hold on while they pay their entitlements. They will have presented their papers. Once they present those papers, they are recognized as the ambassador of the Federal Republic of Nigeria that were appointed by President Ahmed Tinubu. And that is enough, that is a solid platform for them to be able to start operating and functioning. I don't think we should use the question of absence of lack of funds to say that we will not appoint ambassadors. I don't know, like they said, the figures after 6 is more than 7. Among some more, but whatever it goes, I think it is necessary for the President Tinubu administration to urgently take steps to appoint ambassador. Mr. President is going to Brazil now on a state visit. Like I said, in diplomacy, we have different levels of representation, diplomatic engagement. We have a special envoy by Mr. President sent maybe perhaps to his colleague in Ghana or maybe to the United States. Or then you have official visit, which is a little bit higher than the position of sending a special envoy. Then you have state visit. The state visit comes with all the paraphernalia of it. It comes with all the paraphernalia. And there will be official discussions. Look at Brazil now. Mr. President went to Brazil the last time, I think on the sideline of the BRICS meeting. He was able to discuss with President Lula. And I saw in the news report some of the governors who went along with them. They arranged for them to go and see what was happening in respect of the livestock section. Brazil is well known in terms of its ethanol. Not only that, Brazil now has emerged as the third powerful country in the aviation sector. They are challenging the duopoly of Boeing and Airbus with their Embraer. And the Embraer aircrafts are now coming in a bit more common on the Nigerian aviation sector. So I presume as part of this visit, these are some of the things which Mr. President will focus on in terms of his discussions, bilateral relations at this particular state visit. For him to go back to Brazil after BRICS is an important development. And I must commend the President Tinubu administration for doing that. Identify Brazil as a very, very useful partner in this particular area. So this is why we need a substantive ambassador of Nigeria in Brazil to follow up on all this, which Mr. President, of course, will discuss on the ground. I know some members of the private sector will also, of course, go with Mr. President. But in terms of the nitty-gritty, you need to have ambassador. I'm very fond of the saying of Mario Cuomo, the former governor and New York. As well, who says you campaign in poetry when you govern in prose. What I mean is that yes, it is good to have this visit, but in terms of the nitty-gritty, in terms of negotiating, convincing Embraer to be able to give something better and more important, favorable terms for the Nigerian aviation sector, it's important to be able to work also in terms of development of the life. We have a livestock industry now. We do have. And I remember when I went to New Zealand to present my credential, the livestock sector and dairy sector was a very important area for us. Frontera was then trying to come directly into livestock. By the way, we get a lot of our dairy industry come from New Zealand, even though Frontera name is not there. But I was taken around and visited, and Frontera wanted to come with his own brand name into Nigeria. They were in terms of, and when they had a problem in terms of some of their dairy, they sent me a letter, and I had a meeting with them in Australia. They sent somebody to come to Australia from New Zealand. Look, listen, sir, this is the problem we're having in terms of our dairy industry. I think there was a news report to say that there was contamination, and I, as ambassador, NAFDAC, I was able to get across to them. And they said that, please go to our ambassador, have a meeting with him. When you have a meeting with him, and then what he says will be one of the points and issues we will use to be able to clear your name and for your product to come to like that.
Fantastic.
Now, I think I've given
absolutely
clear cut.
You have quite useful. Now, yeah, excellent illustrations. Now, as we segue, because I want you to talk more about Japan and Brazil, which you started. But one last question, on this issue of not having substantive ambassadors. I wanted to ask you, now, we all know that an ambassador is considered in diplomatics as the personal representative of the president. Have we ever had any situation since independence when Nigeria didn't have a substantive ambassador for over 1 year? I know that your whole life, a big part of your life has been in the foreign service. Can you recall any time when we had no substantive ambassadors for almost 2 years? Can you recall?
I cannot recall. I mean, within the period I served, 1980 and 2015, maybe before then, but I cannot recall during my own period. I cannot recall that. And I think we should let us look more forward in terms of saying that, well, this is in the past. Let us correct what could be an anomaly.
Yeah.
And that I sincerely hope that this visit to Japan for the TCAD, then, of course, we come along with the TCAD, and then Brazil will help to convince the administration of President Tinubu that, yes, this is the time, and I sincerely hope that when he comes back from Brazil, the process will start, and so that hopefully, at least within the next 1 month, we'll have clear-cut indication that a list has been submitted to the Senate for screening and for appointment, and then, of course, hopefully, before the end of the year, the respective ambassadors of Nigeria appointed by President Tinubu with their letters of commission will have been in their respective place and present the papers to receiving to the host to the receiving ambassador across the world.
Yeah, I mean, clearly that's the whole objective. Ambassador Olukanni is the whole objective is to try to persuade Mr. President, is to try to inspire the Foreign Affairs Minister that these are very urgent issues. But I wanted to ask you, as we begin to wrap up, just to explain to our audience, because you've spoken about it about twice already, the differences between those terminologies. First of all, I want you to explain to our audience what it means when we say somebody is an ambassador, extraordinary plenipotentiary. That's one. Then two, what's the difference between any kind of visit and a state visit? Because you have referred to the fact that this trip to Brazil is actually a state visit. So if I can summarize, what does it mean when we say ambassador extraordinary plenipotentiary? That's one. Number two, what are the levels of visit and how is it that a state visit is on the apogee, yeah.
Well, thank you very much. I mean, the story and history of ambassadorial appointment and ambassador dates back way back in history. And of course, the ambassador is the embodiment of the country through the president. He's the representative of the president. Because if you look at the letters, which letters of commission, and you will have seen how it is written, that it is the president himself that is appointing this man, that I consider this man very, very competent in all ramifications to be appointed ambassador. So it is the ambassador, like President Tinubu, is an embodiment of the state. It represents over 200 million Nigerians. The ambassador is now representing. So the ambassador himself is representing not only President Tinubu, also the over 214, or how many are we now, Nigerians? This is what you are. So it is the highest point in terms of representation. Then you now have, others in terms of the chargé d'affaires, who is in the mission, who is, of course, just acting capacity. But in terms of representation, when you upgrade from the level of chargé d'affaires, you can have chargé d'affaires arbitrary, then you can have chargé d'affaires on team. It means that country, you're not yet, of course, recognized. I mean, you're not, the representation is still at the. But once you upgrade to that ambassadorial level, then that means that it's a very important country. So implicitly, the ambassador is the embodiment, representation of President Tinubu, and then representing the entire tour. You talked about the question of level of visit. For Brazil to agree, Brazil and Nigeria to agree on a state visit is a representation of the highest level of recognition on the two sides. On the two sides. And also a reflection of the importance of the high esteem in which President Tinubu is held. And that's why maybe the must have a substantive ambassador on ground in Brazil and other places. And these are the people who will go, of course, around the president. I mean, take, for example, Brazil contains the second largest number of black people, on earth, after Nigeria. Over 72 million Brazilians are black people. So implicitly, apart from the economic dimension of it, there's also a cultural dimension.
Right.
A large number of Brazilians come to Nigeria Every year, the last time when I was digging Nasima, we went to Rio, and we met a large number of Brazilians. So we even went to the Brazilian beach where we saw the Brazilian people were frying akaraje.
Interesting. Interesting.
If you go online and see,
I know. Quite.
yeah, akaraje. Not only that, in Bahia, there is a Nigerian house in that place. So implicitly, beyond the economic dimension of it, the cultural dimension of it, a Nigerian ambassador in Brazil will go a long way for a rounded and mutually beneficial ties between and of underscoring the people-to-people relationship in terms of the cultural dimension. I think that is what we should say.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Ayo Olukanni. Thank you for those very useful insights. And of course, like I said, I agree with you that we're trying to persuade the president to do what is going to be helpful for his own agenda and for his own legacy. And I'm trusting that we're going to get a turnaround in that situation. Thank you so much for your work as a former ambassador to several countries, and also your work as the Director General of NASIMA between 2015.
Thank you very much. As a 70-year-old man, 70-year plus.
And you don't look anything 70, by the way.
Well, if my face is not showing it, my body is. The point I want to make is that I'm glad and indeed good work you're doing.
Thank you, sir.
In terms of open sources and open channels.
Thank you.
Sincerely hope, because when you talk of diplomacy, it's not only just the question of conceptual official step. Events like this, sources like this are important that help as far as the input of diplomatic representation and diplomatic ties between Nigeria and across the world in terms of conceptualization and implementation.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for coming to Inside Sources. That was Ambassador Ayo Olukanni.